Good morning. Sitting in for Gretchen Ho, I am Pauline Verzosa. It is Tuesday, the 18th of March, and we're bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. As some groups gathered outside the International Criminal Court to give voice to the victims of extrajudicial killings during the administration of former President Rodrigo Duterte. And now let's check in the latest in the Netherlands. We have our Morning Matters host, Gretchen Ho, still reporting to us there live. Hi, Gretchen. What can you tell us this morning?
Morning to you, Pauline. That's right. That happened just a few hours ago. It was a chilly and quiet evening at The Hague in Netherlands, yet there were voices that disrupted the silence. Progressive groups gathered right in front of the ICC detention center in The Hague Penitentiary to give a voice to the victims of the Duterte administration's war on drugs. And together, they shouted the refrain,
Pinaglalaban po namin ngayon dito ang hustisya para naalala po ng mga Pilipino na hindi po ito tungkol sa
In a candle lighting and prayer vigil held last night, human rights advocates read the names of those who perished during the drug war and are still seeking for justice. Althea Barbon, 4 years old, suffered the same fate when police fired at her and her father while they were on a motorcycle. Police claims the father was a drug dealer. And most prominent of these cases is Kian de los Santos.
Pinaglalaban po namin ngayon dito ang hustisya para naalala po ng mga Pilipino na hindi po ito tungkol sa mga tao, hindi ito tungkol sa mga personality politics na tinatawag nila, kundi tungkol sa mga taong namatay noong Duterte administration. Laban nila yun eh. Trinay nilang ilaban sa pulis na sabihin na hindi po ito mga adik, hindi po ito, lalo na yung mga bata, hindi po sila kasama sa war on drugs, mga inosenteng tao po ito. Pero wala pong nakinig sa kanilang mga kwento. Tingin po nila pagdating sa hustisya sa Pilipinas na walang mararating yung mga kaso nila. Kaya nung malaman nila na nakarating na sa ICC at nung nangyari yung pagdating ng Interpol sa Pilipinas nung Wednesday, medyo nagkaroon sila ng konting tuwa na may nakarinig na mga hinaing namin.
Patricia Enriquez, who has been living in the Netherlands for about 9 years now, is a community organizer, social worker, and student in the Netherlands. She represents Gabriela in Holland. Enriquez says that while she understands the pro-Duterte supporters, that does not invalidate the existence of deaths due to the drug war.
Marami talaga ang mga supporters. Naiintindihan naman po namin bakit po sila naniniwala kay Pangulong Duterte at nung panahon ng administrasyon niya, kung nakaramdam po sila ng ginhawa ng buhay, hindi naman po namin inaalis sa kanila yon na nagkaroon po sila, sabi nilang they felt safe, yan po yung mga sinasabi nila. Pero hindi naman po yun yung pinag-uusapan. Ang pinag-uusapan po dito ay yung mga namatay. So magkaibang issue po yun. So yun po yung gusto namin ipalabas. Naiintindihan namin na maganda buhay niyo noon, sige, pero ibang usapan po yung mga namatay, yung mga bata, yung mga civilian na namatay. So, kahit mukhang marami sila, meron at meron naninindigan para sa hustisya dito. At all over the world, marami ng protestang dahan-dahan na nag-oorganisa para paglaban ng human rights at hustisya.
Menandro Abanes, who teaches sociology in the Netherlands and is a member of Filipinos Against Corruption and Tyranny, recalls his experience meeting the mom of a victim of extrajudicial killings.
Si Aldrin Castillo, yeah.
Ano po kwento
niya? Siya ay anak ni Ma'am Nenet. At siya ay naging biktima. At nasa labas siya. At yun, binaril dahil suspected nga sa droga.
Taga saan po si Aldrin?
Taga Tondo. Ang kwento niya ay kwento sa akin ng kanyang nanay. No? Kasi yung nanay niya pumunta dito. At nakilala ko ang nanay, ang hinagpis ng isang nanay. Isa siya sa mga nag-file ng kaso dyan sa ICC. Noong 2017, pumunta sila dito. At para patunayan sa ICC na mayroong ang totoong mga biktima.
Even if it saddens him that the former president needs to be taken to the International Criminal Court, Menandro thinks this is the only way to obtain real justice.
I think ito lang talaga yung venue na pwede nating asahan kung saan ang hustisya ay pwedeng makamtan sa ganitong mga kaso. Kasi kung sa Pilipinas, alam natin na may galamay pa rin, may kapangyarihan pa rin, may impluwensya pa rin ang mga Duterte. Nakakalungkot pero wala eh. Ang kagandahan sa international organizations at international institutions ay talagang pinapahalagahan nila ang hustisya, objective trial, fair trial, at isang due process para sa makita talaga ang katotohanan. Bilang Pilipino, likas sa atin maawain, forgiving, pinalaki tayo sa katolikong pamamaraan, yung makapagpatawad, sabi nga, pag sinampal ka, ibigay mo pa yung isa. Pero para sa akin, habang tinitingnan ko si Digong, habang sinasabi niya, mga sinasabi niya sa media na handa niyang harapin to, kasi ginawa niya ito, dapat daw gawin to, wala akong nakikitang remorse. Wala akong nakikitang yung bang pagsisisi. So I think ito ang paraan na humarap siya sa isang trial para kahit papaano siguro mapang-isip niya kung ano ang mga ginawa niya at may konsekwensya sa anumang ginawa mo dito sa mundo. Walang kapayapaan pag walang hustisya.
That was Menandro and Patricia, two voices here from progressive and human rights groups fighting for the victims of the drug war of the former president. They are speaking on their behalf, and they did address a lot of the concerns. For example, the 43 cases presented to the ICC chamber, we asked that kung totoo ba yung mga nasa listahan nila, because nga there has been doubt casted, especially with what happened to the doctor that was claimed to be an EJK death, but disproved by his son. Ang sabi naman nila ay nag-apologize na, nagkaintindihan na, pero there's also this culture of impunity that caused that. And another thing is that the 43 cases, they say, are the strongest cases, a representative sample of the whole the drug war. And the important thing is for the ICC, the judges, to be able to understand or see if there is an actual system or a pattern that was held by the former administration and legalized through the government. Pauline?
Okay, well, Gretchen, do you have any updates as well on former President Duterte's legal team? I understand ES Medialdea met with him during the day there in the Netherlands. What's the latest on that?
The update that we have for today is Attorney Harry Roque going live on his Facebook account and clearing something about the Vice President, that she will not be part of the legal counsel anymore, particularly because there is a provision in the Constitution that bars that from happening, bars her from serving as a lawyer to anyone while being a public official. So we have yet to get that exact provision in the Constitution. Pero yun ang sinabi nila, Polino, dahil hindi siya pwedeng mag-practice habang siya ay isang opisyales. So the Vice President will not be part of the defense team, but what we have, or who we have confirmed, is Attorney Nicholas Kaufman so far.
Well, speaking of former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, Gretchen, he did mention he plans to seek asylum there in the Netherlands. But is that really possible?
Well, Attorney Harry Roque can file for asylum with the Netherlands, but it's not going to be easy. If you take a look at the website of Netherlands, the government.nl, you would see that Minister Faber, the Minister of the Commission in charge of asylums and immigration, has tightened the acceptance of asylum seekers because they say that they don't have space, that it is related to the rising costs in housing, in health, and education. They are not able to cater to that demand, and the lines are long for asylum seekers. So if you ask if it's possible, it is possible, but as to how difficult it is, it will probably be very tight, especially with the policies or the direction of the Dutch government.
And Gretchen, what about for our Senator Robin Padilla, rather, joining VP Sara and Attorney Harry Roque there in The Hague? I mean, malinaw na ba kung ano daw yung magiging role niya dyan? At when is he planning to return to the Philippines?
So, Pauline, yesterday we were reporting Senator Robin Padilla trying to visit the former president outside the ICC detention facility. He was there, he was hanging around, he was talking to the Filipinos visiting and showing their support to the former president. And we asked him what his basis was to visit the former president. And he said there's a sheet that says political allies can come and visit. But we got a hold of the rules right here. This is from the Philippine Embassy. These are rules on the ICC registry, and it says that the only I think it has provisions for only two kinds of visits. The number one is counsel, and the other one is family. Actually, hindi pala two. Meron pang diplomatic or consular representatives. And the detained person can also refuse to see their visitor. So, wala dito na tayo nakikita na political ally. I'm not sure what kind of sheet that the senator has seen. Pero dito sa sa piece of paper na to, yung visits by counsel, ang nakalagay dito, ang permitted for regular visits is the counsel. So the family has to apply for permission every single day, but the one that will be given access regularly would be the council. So that I think is not the privilege anymore that the vice president will be having, since she is not going to see the former president as counsel, but now as a family member.
I mean, yeah, as it is already, it's very hard already for a family member to see the former president, right? So all the more for a political ally like Senator Robin Padilla. But Gretchen, talking about the supporters, how long do they plan on staying there in the Netherlands and staging all these demonstrations, whether they're pro or anti Mr. Duterte?
Tinatanong natin yan, no, kung gaano katagal, kasi sabi, medyo mahaba pa yung laban na ito dahil maaaring tumagal ng taon. Yung kahit yung buong proseso ng confirmation of charges until the pre-trial and the trial itself. Ang tinanong natin sa kanila kung gaano katagal, sabi nila as long as they can, as far as they can go. And the ones that we met a while ago had work over the weekend because there were protest rallies doon sa Maliveld Park kasama ng mga pro-Duterte supporters. May humabol kanina sa labas. Sabi nila may trabaho sila pero isang araw lang sila pwedeng bumisita. So I guess it's becoming quite a trend. The Filipinos coming over here without any official gathering. Talagang dun lang sila sa labas. Gusto lang nila makita yung detention facility, gusto nila sumigaw ng Duterte. Tapos yung pagdating naman dun sa anti, if you could see, these are actually OFWs also living here. They represent different groups. So they are quite active on that front. Human rights activists joining the rally a while ago. They had a candle lighting and prayer vigil. Yun din parang as long as they can. Hindi rin nila masabi kung gaano katagal, pero whatever they can to give a voice to the Filipinos back home that they represent. So kanya-kanya silang dala, kanya-kanya silang bandera, at kanya-kanya rin silang yung mga placards at mga pangalan. At talagang mukhang dinadala din nila yung mga kanilang mga kapamilya at mga kaibigan to make it a family affair, to make it a barkada affair outside the detention facility of the ICC.
Well, it is still a long journey ahead, but for now, thank you very much for your report. That was Morning Matters host Gretchen Ho reporting live to us from the Netherlands. We're just going to take a quick break, but don't go away. We will be back with more stories right after this. Welcome back. I'm Pauline Verzosa, sitting in for Gretchen Ho, and this is Morning Matters. The Atin Ito coalition will set sail on its third voyage to the West Philippine Sea on May 25. Akbayan Party List President and Atin Ito co-convener Rafaela David said the three-day journey will begin in El Nido, Palawan and head to the Kalayaan Island Group. The mission, which includes a peace and sovereignty concert, aims to reinforce the country's stance in the West Philippine Sea. About 100 volunteers, along with artists such as Noel Cabangon and foreign acts from Japan, Vietnam, and Malaysia, will take part in the mission. Atin Ito first sailed on December 2023 for a Christmas convoy, followed by a May 2024 trip to distribute fuel and food to fishermen in Bajo de Masinloc. And to discuss Atin Ito's third civilian mission to the West Philippine Sea and its significance, as well as other key issues shaping the nation, we are now joined by Kiko Aquino D. Hi, Kiko. Good morning, and thanks for joining us here on Morning Matters.
Hi, Pauline. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, well, Kiko, Atin Ito about to have its third civilian mission in the West Philippine Sea. Tell us what made you decide to conduct another mission in the WPS.
Well, I think the goal of Atin Ito is really to civilianize the West Philippine Sea. No? I think most of our viewers will be aware that we're in a competitive relationship right now with China over the exercise of our rights in that area. And I think one way that we can contest China, it's a much stronger power, it has a strong military. But one way that we can contest them is by showing to them and to the world that we're interested in doing peaceful things in that area, trying to de-escalate. And so we're doing things like helping out our fisher folk who make their livelihood off of that area. And now we're going to be holding a concert in the area to show that while we're assertive, we're firm in asserting our rights in the area, we also don't mean anyone harm, whether it be China, any of the other claimants, or to anyone else looking to use the West Philippine Sea.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we talk about the concert, I mean, the previous two missions, Kiko, definitely had significance on the public awareness on this issue, right? But what specific outcomes are you hoping to achieve with this third mission?
Well, that's right. So the first two missions, I think, really put us back on the world stage. No? So what happened with our story with the West Philippine Sea in 2016, July 2016, we had a very favorable ruling in as far as our rights to the West Philippine Sea. Those rights, or that ruling, was not really used by the previous Duterte administration to defend our rights. Now we're seeing some progress in terms of support for asserting our rights in the area. But again, we want to sort of reclaim, we want to show to the world again that the Philippines is serious about taking care of that part of the seas, taking care of the West Philippine Sea. So I think the first two missions really got a lot of coverage here and around the world. We're hoping to do the same thing. That's why, in a way, Atin Ito is scaling up. The first was a civilian-led resupply mission for those stationed in BRP Sierra Madre. The second really was there to help a lot of our fisher folk taking care of the area. And aside from the, I think, 5 big ships of Atin Ito, around 100 small vessels also sailed there. Now we're going to try something very new, very different, concert in the area, just to remind the world that the Philippines is a reliable partner as far as taking care of the seas there, and also as far as asserting not just our rights, but the international rule-based order that governs relationships between countries.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now let's talk about that peace and solidarity concert. I mean, it will be happening right at the Kalayaan Island, right, Kiko?
The plan is to conduct the concert right at the center of the West Philippine Sea, at the center of the Kalayaan Islands. So, we really just want to show that while we're firm in asserting that what's ours is ours, what's the Philippines is the Philippines, we don't mean any harm to anyone And so I think one of the best ways to do that is through through song, the universal language basically. And again, it's not just going to be Philippine acts that are performing. We have Fumi, I think a Japanese artist who has agreed to perform with us, and we're still inviting and still recruiting other artists from all the different countries involved in the dispute to sort of come together and say that we want peace. We believe in our rights, but we want peace.
But Kiko, given the ongoing tensions, I mean, what are the measures as well in place to ensure the safety of all those partaking in this third civilian mission?
Well, Atinito is consistent with coordinating with our security sector. So one of the consultants of Atinito, or one of the main advocates of Atinito, is former Admiral Romel Ong, no? And we also have contacts with the relevant government agencies to make sure that while the position of Atinito is we don't really need to ask permission to visit an area that rightfully belongs to Filipinos, not just the government, but to the Philippine state and every Filipino citizen. Definitely, we will make sure to coordinate with the relevant authorities to make sure that nothing untoward occurs.
And for those who are interested to take part in this third civilian mission, Kiko, how can they do that?
Well, Atinito, our socials are all over the place, no? So you can look up for us on Facebook. You can just search Atinito on Google, and you'll find our socials there. And definitely keep your eyes peeled for the concert. We hope to have as many viewers from around the world to sort of partake in that message that while we're firm in asserting our rights, what we want is peace. And I think especially the last couple of months, the Philippines has really made ourselves known as a very artistic, a very musically gifted country, and we'd like to share that with the rest of the world. That it's not just the Philippines, but a lot of the countries in the region want to use our talents to advance this cause of peace, but also firmness in the rules-based order that governs the seas.
Have you already filled the list of the 100 volunteers? I mean, can people still sign up? And how are preparations also going for you?
That's right. I don't actually. I'm still finalizing if the list of volunteers is filled up. I don't think it is. I just know that I'm penciled in to be there, and I think some of my relatives might be finding out about that for the first time. But yeah, I definitely think if people are interested in actually taking the trip, they can reach out to us on our socials, and we will definitely. It's not an instant process, right? There's a lot of preparation that goes into it, but if that's possible, we'll definitely get back to anyone who's interested. How are the preparations going? We're still finalizing the acts that will be performing, and definitely there's constant coordination with the relevant government agencies. But I think Atenito, this is the third time the group is doing this civilian-led mission. I think there's been a lot of learning from the last two missions that have both been fairly successful now. So while the preparations are ongoing, the preparations are very involved, but I think we're getting more and more confident doing these trips as the days go by.
Yeah, and I believe the Morning Matters host Gretchen actually also took part in one of the civilian missions, right? And Kiko, I know Atenito has always been advocating and emphasizing the role of collective action, right, in defending the sovereignty of the country. But apart from participating in missions like these, how else do you think can ordinary citizens or organizations do to support this cause? What else can they do?
I think it's important to get organized not just through trips like this, but I think we need to show both the world and our leaders here that defending our sovereign rights to the West Philippine Sea is a permanent interest of the Filipino people, regardless of what administration sits there. Every government has a responsibility to defend our exclusive economic zone. And I think that it's unfortunate that the past administration has shown us that it's something that citizens have to remind our leaders of. But given that that's the case, there's an election coming up. I hope that Filipinos and a vast majority of Filipinos agree that our rights to the West Philippine Sea are something that our representatives really need to go out of their way to defend. And I hope we can remind them of that, not just through this civilian-led convoy that's going to be that's going to start on May 25, but also in the coming elections. Let us elect candidates who are consistent in defending our rights to the West Philippine Sea.
All right, well, thank you very much for sharing all those insights and updates with us here on Morning Matters. That was atin ito Advocate Kiko Aquino D.
Thank you very much, Paul.
I'll stay tuned. Morning Matters will be back after this short break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Senate President Cheese Escudero assures Senator Bato de la Rosa that he won't be arrested inside the Senate's premises should the ICC issue an arrest warrant. Escudero said preventing such an arrest at the Senate building is part of institutional courtesy. De la Rosa earlier said he will seek Senate protection once the ICC goes after him for his role in Duterte's drug war. The re-electionist senator served as a former president's first police chief who implemented the bloody anti-narcotics campaign.
Hindi nakabase sa batas, pero nakabase sa tinatawag na institutional courtesy. Hindi papayagan ng Senadong arestuhin ang sinumang miyembro niya sa loob ng Senado, lalo na kung merong sesyon. Ang pinakamatagal na namalagi dito sa Senado ay si Senator Trillanes, na namalagi dito ng humigit kumulang 25 araw.
Now, to give us some context this morning, let's talk to Attorney Joel Butuyan, one of the Filipino lawyers accredited by the International Criminal Court. Hi, Attorney. Good morning and welcome to Morning Matters.
Good morning, Pauline, and to all the televiewers.
Okay, Attorney, first balikan naman po natin ang initial appearance ni former President sa ICC noong Friday. What did you make of that, Attorney?
Well, it went as planned, no, and as it should be. There was an attempt by the Duterte camp to politicize it, no, with a political speech, but the judges stood pat and they just tackled the agenda for the day, which are only making sure that the one arrested is Mr. Duterte himself. He was read his rights, and the schedule for the confirmation of charges were set for September 23.
Well, Attorney, during the initial appearance, you also have the legal counsel of Mr. Duterte, E.S. Medialdea, saying that Duterte's arrest here in the Philippines and by the ICC was kidnapping. What's your reaction to that, Attorney?
You know, that's what they're doing is they're turning the ICC proceedings into a political stage, no, and they're milking the proceedings for its political worth, no. That's why they're bifurcating the trial into a legal trial and a trial before the court of public opinion, no? Because they know that there's election this year and there's another one in 2028. So they're trying to rile up the people through words that inflame, no? That appeal to the emotions, through misrepresentation and fake news even, no? So that's that.
All right, without attorney, the confirmation of charges has already been set 6 months from now, September 23. Matagal-tagal pa po yun. So what are the legal options right now for the Duterte camp?
Two things are going to happen between now and September 23, Pauline, no? First, the Duterte camp will have the option to file challenges. They can challenge the validity of the issuance of the warrant of arrest. They can challenge the validity of the implementation of the warrant of arrest. They can challenge, in fact, the jurisdiction of the ICC over Mr. Duterte using their argument that the Philippines is no longer a member, so the ICC has lost jurisdiction, no? And then they can actually apply for an interim relief. I mean interim release, no? They would say that Mr. Duterte should be released temporarily while trial is ongoing, no? So that's one. The second one is what's called disclosure. This is the stage where the prosecutor will divulge to the defense the evidence that it will be using in the confirmation of charges and in the trial that will ensue. No, so the list of witnesses and the statements and the evidence, the videos, everything, no? And the purpose is to give the defense enough time to prepare for its defense during the confirmation of charges and the trial proper.
So attorney, ito nga pag-question dun sa jurisdiction, can all this happen before September 23? Meaning, pwede ba nilang gawin ito, i-petition yan, para hindi na nga mangyari yung confirmation of charges pagdating ng Setyembre?
Dapat talaga, Pauline, gawin na nila ngayon para
As soon as possible.
mapag-desisyonan na ng ICC bago pa man tumuloy yung confirmation of charges. Kasi kung sasabihin ng ICC, wala talagang jurisdiction na ang ICC, so hindi na matutuloy yung confirmation of charges, no? Pero kung sabihin na meron pa rin jurisdiction, talagang matutuloy-tuloy yung confirmation of charges and eventually yung trial.
Well, the Duterte camp did tap British-Israeli lawyer, a litigation lawyer, in Nicholas Kaufman as a lead counsel. Para sa iyo, attorney, ano po ba ang tingin niyo doon? Do you think it's a smart move, and can a litigation lawyer, a high-profile litigation lawyer like Nicholas Kaufman, be successful in this case?
You know, you can hire the best lawyer in any case, no? But if the evidence, no, the main, the principal, the strongest, the biggest, the most important witness of the prosecution is your client himself, Mr. Duterte, I don't know what kind of circus or legal gobbledygook you're going to do, no, to obtain an acquittal. Because I've seen the evidence, no, of the prosecutor in its application for a warrant. And a lot of the evidence that they're going to present are videos of the statements and declarations of Mr. Duterte himself, encouraging policemen to do the killings, assuring them of reward and promotion, even encouraging parents to kill their own children if they're involved in drugs, and even appealing to the public, no, to kill drug personalities, no. So with pieces of evidence like that, no, you can get the best lawyer, but I don't think you can get an acquittal.
So in your opinion, attorney, no, even with the caliber of a great defense lawyer, a good defense lawyer in Nicholas Kaufman, mahirap pa rin kalabanin yung sariling statements nung accused na si Mr. Duterte in this case.
Tama yun, no? Tama yun, Pauline. And in addition to the statements, talaga namang malakas yung mga ebidensya na may mga patayan talaga nangyari and may involvement ang mga police. And there would be insider witnesses that these were actually planned at the highest echelon of the government, meaning the presidency and yung lahat na nakapaligid sa kanya.
But I remember, attorney, no, itong si Attorney Kaufman, he represented the former Vice President of Congo, si Vice President Bemba. He was convicted, but eventually, they were able to secure an overturning. So, kumbaga, na-acquit po siya. Kasi hindi naman daw na-establish, kumbaga, yung role niya, or he couldn't take responsibility for the actions of his men. Could that be used as well as an argument for former President Duterte na hindi ma-establish na siya talaga yung, kumbaga yung may sala nitong lahat ng extrajudicial killings or crimes against humanity?
Dun sa kasong yun, Pauline, walang kagaya ng ebidensya na meron tayo dito na si Pangulong Duterte mismo nagsasabi na ako ang may responsibilidad na he was even admitting as early as when he was a mayor, no, that he was giving rewards, no, to the police and that he was issuing orders for the liquidation of drug personalities, no. So, yung elemento na wala dun sa previous kaso sa Africa, napakaraming ebidensya ng elemento linking the participation and the masterminding of Mr. Duterte in the killings that happened in our country.
So para sa inyo, Attorney, airtight ang prosecution, ang case ng prosecution?
Sobrang airtight, Pauline. So talagang tingin ko kaya nga ang ginagawa na lang ng defense is really to turn this into a political drama, no? So court of public opinion na lang yung kanilang pinagdudulugan ng kanilang mga reklamo, hindi na actually yung sa ICC. Ginagamit na lang nilang political stage yung ICC.
Okay. Per attorney, nabanggit nyo nga, no, right now, while waiting for the confirmation of charges in September, what the defense team can do is question the jurisdiction. Sa ICC po yan. Pero dito po sa bansa natin, sa Pilipinas, can the Duterte allies still do anything with the Supreme Court? And can the Supreme Court actually rule over over international law, in this case, ICC?
Pauline, wala nang jurisdiction yung Supreme Court natin, no? Dahil unang-una, wala siyang mandato na manduhan yung ICC na ibalik nyo si Mr. Duterte sa Pilipinas. Walang ganung jurisdiction ang ating Supreme Court, no? Pangalawa, wala na yung subject ng habeas corpus na final nila dahil nasa labas na ng Pilipinas. Ang ating Korte Suprema may jurisdiction lamang within the boundaries of our national jurisdiction. So talagang magiging moot and academic na yung kasong yun.
Well, Attorney, yun na nga po, no, ang Office of the Solicitor General actually recused itself from representing the government dun sa petition for habeas corpus na ifinile ng Duterte children. For you, Attorney, I mean, what does that say? You have the OSG refusing to represent the respondents. In this case, no, yung the DOJ, the police, SILG. Ano pong masasabi nyo doon?
At hindi ko talaga maintindihan yung puntong yan ng ating gobyerno, no? It does one thing, it says one thing and it does another thing. Kagaya ng sinasabi nila na hindi nila recognize ang ICC, but they complied with the arrest warrant naman, no? Tapos sasabihin nila ngayon na hindi sila makikialam sa Supreme Court sa kaso, sila yung action ng government itself ang in question, no? So parang parang sumusuko na lang sila na na yung kampo ni President Duterte magsasabi na mali yung ginawa ng gobyerno tapos sasabihin ng gobyerno silent kami diyan. Parang talagang napagtataka talaga.
Okay, Attorney, shifting gears naman po, let's talk about former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque. Aside from trying to seek accreditation in the ICC as part of the legal counsel of Mr. Duterte, nag-resurface nga kasi po itong si Attorney Harry sa Netherlands. Can he actually still be part of the legal counsel of Mr. Duterte, knowing that authorities in the Philippines are looking for him?
Nasa list counsel si Attorney Roque. So, pursuant to the rules ng ICC, pwede pa rin siyang humarap na abogado, no? Ngayon, yung usapin ng warrant niya issued by the Quadcom at this point, no? Kasi hindi ko alam kung meron ng warrant dun sa may mga ibang criminal case na final sa kanya. Yun ay dadaan sa proseso ng extradition kung talagang merong ng ground for extradition para pabalikin siya sa Pilipinas.
So ang pagsik po ni Attorney Harry Roque ng political asylum, posible naman po yun, Attorney, sa Netherlands?
Hindi ko kabisado ang rules ng Netherlands Asylum, no, pero tinignan ko nga yung kanilang website. mukhang talagang swamp sila, no? And there's a policy to really be very strict with granting asylum dahil talagang may crisis sa kanila. Dahil ang daming asylum seekers, no? Dahil sa nangyayaring giyera sa Ukraine at kung saan man, no? Sa Palestine, saka sa Syria, no? So, hindi ko alam kung meron siyang chansang kumuha ng asylum considering this crisis sa Netherlands na nangyayari.
Well, Attorney, final question ko na lang po, no? You are also an ICC accredited lawyer and you do represent the victims. Ano na po ba ang latest sa mga biktima ng EJK, ang mga pamilya? How are they handling all these developments and how are they also preparing for the confirmation of charges sa September 23?
Sobrang tuwang-tuwa, no? Hindi mo napapaiyak na yung iba, no? Nung nalaman na talagang nilipad na sa The Hague si Mr. Duterte, no? Pero pagkatapos noon, alam mo, grabe yung harassment na nangyayari sa kanila, no? From the supporters of Mr. Duterte, mas lalo na yung mga biktima na sa Mindanao, na dumadaan sila ngayon sa harassment, no? So talagang medyo natatakot sila. They will be participating in the ICC through a victims council, and we are awaiting the appointment of a victims council by the ICC itself, which could happen as early as the confirmation of charges, no? Kasi isa o dalawa lang yung appoint a victims council to represent all the victims in the Philippines.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us on Morning Matters, and thank you for your insights. That was ICC accredited lawyer, Attorney Joel Butuyan. Maraming salamat po. Don't go away. We still have more stories coming up right after this break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. I'm Pauline Verzosa, sitting in for Gretchen Ho, and this is Morning Matters. Former Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo has criticized Senator Amy Marcos's plan to investigate the arrest of former President Duterte. Panelo says it's obvious and that Amy already knows that the arrest was illegal. He added that the probe is only for publicity as Amy is running for senator. Senator Marcos was notably absent from the Alianza rally in Tacloban City last Friday. She cited former President Duterte's recent arrest as the reason for skipping the event. Meantime, the Office of the Solicitor General has recused itself from representing the government respondents on the petitions filed by the Duterte camp. The OSG said it cannot effectively represent the respondents due to its, quote, firm stance that the ICC has no jurisdiction in the Philippines. The OSG represents government officials and agencies in proceedings before the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court. With its recusal, it will not represent the respondents of the petitions filed by Duterte's children against current and former government officials. And now let's talk more about this with Attorney Salvador Panelo, former Presidential Legal Counsel. He joins us now on the line. Hi, Attorney Sal, and thank you for joining us on Morning Matters.
Good morning.
Good morning, Attorney. Okay, simulan na po natin sa manifestation ng Office of the Solicitor General to recuse itself. What's your reaction to that, Attorney, and how huge is that development for your side?
Well, it means that the lawyers in the Office of the Solicitor General are being filthy to their oath of office. They will serve this country to the best of their ability and integrity.
Attorney, sinabi niyo rin po na the recusal or the decision to recuse ng OSG was also another way of saying na illegal po ang pag-aresto kay Mr. Duterte ng ICC?
Yes, because it is saying that it will be consistent with its position that ICC has no jurisdiction. If ICC has no jurisdiction, then the warrant of arrest issued by it and enforced by this government is illegal.
And Attorney, do you think this manifestation nga po ng OSG or yung stance ng OSG will only boost the Duterte's argument sa Supreme Court na wala nga pong jurisdiction ang ICC?
Not only boost, it has validated our position that ICC has no jurisdiction. Totoo naman talaga walang jurisdiction. Even the President himself is saying that. Ang problema lang, iba ang pinapakinggan niyang advice. I don't know where it's coming from. Kasi he maintains that it has no jurisdiction, and yet he is following the advice that Interpol has the authority to enforce the writ of the ICC. How can ICC becomes legal in terms of issuing a warrant and enforcing it? And how can Interpol be authorized to enforce a request coming from ICC that has no jurisdiction?
And Attorney, when do you expect to get a response or an update dito po nga sa petition for habeas corpus? Di ba you represent po itong si Kitty Duterte sa kasong ito?
Yes. Ang rule dyan, after they file the response, either the Supreme Court decides the case or directs us to make a rejoinder and then decide the case.
And when do you expect to receive that, Attorney?
We haven't received any yet.
Okay.
So if we don't receive any, it means the court will resolve it forthwith.
But are you confident, Attorney? Are you optimistic that the Supreme Court will be ruling in your favor in terms of itong habeas corpus petition nga? But also taking note that the Supreme Court already ruled back in 2021 that the Philippines still has obligations to cooperate po sa ICC.
Alam mo yung sinasabi mong desisyon ng Korte Suprema, ang tingin ko doon obiter dictum lang yun. Ibig sabihin, hindi yun ang principal issue. The principal issue then, iba. Naging moot and academic kasi pinag-uusapan nila doon whether may jurisdiction o wala So, parang in passing sinabi na may residual obligation tayo kasi meron daw provisions sa statute na even if we have withdrawn, since they started investigating daw prior to the withdrawal, meron pa tayong obligasyon. Palagay ko, hindi nakita ng Korte Suprema na yung investigation referred to, hindi naman talaga yun ang ginawa. Kung hindi yung preliminary examination of determining whether it can assume jurisdiction because the conditions imposed by the rule of complementary present. Hindi naman present eh. So, yung preliminary examination, iba yun doon sa investigation proper. Kaya, isinama namin yun sa aming argumento.
Pero attorney, ano po ba ang prayer nyo dito sa inyong petisyon? Because marami pong ibang lawyers naman na nagsasabi that the Supreme Court doesn't have power to issue orders sa international court. Kumbaga, it cannot assert its power over an international constitution. So, how do you plan on getting Mr. Duterte back to the Philippines through the Supreme Court?
The question is not the court compelling the ICC.
Yes, attorney.
Kakatawa nga ako sa mga argumento nila. Sabi ko, the question is not compelling ICC to surrender Mr. Duterte. Hindi yan. Ang issue is the Supreme Court has jurisdiction over this government's illegal acts. Under the Constitution, sila ang pwede mag-resolve noon. Since the government has illegally arrested, detained, and kidnapped the former president and blocked him out of this country, then this government has committed an illegal act. And therefore, the Supreme Court can compel it to correct its wrong and do something about it and bring the former president to their presence.
But attorney, how can the government do that?
Nasa problema ng gobyerno yun, hindi ICC. Ang ICC tumanggap lamang ng katawan ng dating Presidente Marcos, Duterte. Kaya, ang may problema, ang gobyerno natin. Since you committed the wrong, you correct your wrong. How you do it, yun ang problema mo. Kung hindi mo gagawin yan, accountable ka sa batas.
But attorney, how do you see the government doing that? Is it making representation? Is it through diplomatic relations? How can the government get Mr. Duterte back? Kung nasa ICC na po ang jurisdiction.
Yeah, you should ask the government how they're going to do it if they're compelled. Hindi na namin problema yon. Ganun din ang Supreme Court. Hindi rin problema ng Korte Suprema yon. Ang problema, kayong gumawa ng problema nyo, gumawa kayo ng paraan. Gobyerno tayo, may magagawa tayo. May magagawa. Isuko nyo nga eh. Naggumawa nga kayo ng illegal eh. Siguro, this time gumawa kayo ng legal. Gawin nyo paraan. Balik nyo ang presidente dito.
Okay. Well, earlier we also reported, Attorney Sala, yung inyong criticism of Senator Amy Marcos sa kanyang plano na imbestigahin ang pag-aresto kay former President Duterte. Bakit sa tingin niyo, Attorney, unnecessary na yung investigation na yon na planong isagawa ni Senator Amy Marcos?
Kasi nga, obvious na illegal. Mismong gobyerno, abogado ng gobyerno, sabi na walang jurisdiction, di illegal. Pangalawa, si Amy ay nakatapos ng abogasiya. Hindi siya lisensyadong abogado, pero she finished law. Alam niya kung ano ang illegal at hindi. Ano pang kailangan mong pag-aralan o kailangan mo na imbestigahan? Nakita mo na, lantaran na nga. Siya na nga mismo nagsasabi na hindi niya masikmura yung ginawa sa dating Presidente Duterte. Bakit? Kasi mali. Kasi illegal. O ano pang gusto mong gawin? Kandidato lang yan. Kaya gusto niyang, as usual, yung mga politiko, publisidad. At saka, napaka-hypocritical ang mga stance niya. Bumanat siya sa kapatid niya. nagsisiksik siya sa mga Duterte. Hindi niya raw papabayaan itong si Sara. Pagkatapos, nagkakandara pa siyang pumunta doon sa States at kumandidato sa linya ng administrasyon. Sino maniniwala sa kanya? O kaya tingnan mo ang survey. Bagsak siya sa survey. Kasi ang tao nakikita kung sino yung mga matatapat. They can see through the hypocrisy, the insincerity, and the people who are just using the Dutertes for their own benefit and interest.
All right. Well, Attorney, we will be monitoring all these developments. But for now, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us here on Morning Matters. Maraming salamat po, former Presidential Legal Counsel, Attorney Salvador Panelo.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now in other news, the Supreme Court said it will investigate those who falsely claimed that it had issued a temporary restraining order on the petition filed by former President Rodrigo Duterte's camp. The SC also refuted claims circulating on social media that it had received a petition seeking the resignation of President Bongbong Marcos. According to the court, appropriate sanctions will be imposed on those responsible for spreading misinformation. The SC reminded the public to rely only on its official statements posted on verified social media accounts and on its website. It also urged people not to share unverified posts or information found online. Our House Deputy Majority Leader and La Union Representative Paulo Ortega V has disclosed additional names of supposed recipients of confidential funds from the office of Vice President Sara Duterte. The list includes Jay Camote and Miggy Mango, along with 5 individuals, all named Dodong. Ortega noted that the alleged recipients share similar handwriting, raising further doubts about their legitimacy. He added that this could strengthen the impeachment case against the Vice President.
O, di ba? Parami ng parami. Pa-creative ng pa-creative. Nung una, nag-umpisa sa pangalan ng mga chips, saka chicheria. O, di ba? Chips na nga, ninakaw pa nila. So, nakakalungkot na ganito, no? Parang talagang sadyang inaabuso yung sistema.
Meanwhile, Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon instructs the MRT to extend its operating hours by at least an hour. Dizon also directed the MRT3 management to deploy additional trains during peak hours. The newly minted transportation chief hopped aboard the train line yesterday, inspecting southbound stations that include Shaw Boulevard, Ayala Avenue, and Taft. According to Dizon, there might be a need for a reshuffle in the train line management.
Tingin ko magpapagit ako ng management sa MRT3. Meron akong rinirekomenda na papalit. Kailangan dito mabilis kasi hindi natin pwedeng mag-iitin yung isang escalator na nasisira kasi ang laking tulong dun sa mga kababayan natin, lalo na sa mga kababayan nating may disability.
And that's today's episode of Morning Matters. I'm Pauline Verzosa, sitting in for Gretchen Ho. Thank you so much for joining us. We are One News, all sides, all the time.